Hi, welcome back guys. This is your Sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Had Wolf Clan Bloodline. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The Namikaze clan was on the verge of extinction, with only one member remaining. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was the last of his lineage in the known world. The Namikaze bloodline was steeped in ancient lore, passed down through generations. It was said that a Namikaze soul possessed a unique trait. At the precise moment of their 7th birthday, they would make eye contact with an animal. This moment would bind the Namikaze and the chosen animal for life, creating a bond far stronger than that between an Inuzuka and their Nin-ken. Rarely, a Namikaze might bond with more than one animal, and Naruto was destined to be one of those few. On October 10th, the day of Naruto's birthday, he decided to celebrate by visiting the Ichiraku ramen stand for breakfast. His life had a peculiar quality. Wherever he went, he often heard voices, and sometimes he couldn't tell if they were real or just in his head. He was accustomed to the shouts and taunts that accompanied physical attacks, as well as the ghostly whispers that promised pain when no one was watching. Naruto had made a simple vow to himself as a child. He would try to be what others wanted him to be, believing that if he acted kindly, he would be treated better. He was always respectful to those he didn't know, striving to be the nicest person he could be, but it was never enough for those around him. Upon arriving at the ramen shop, he greeted the two people who cared for him. Tuchi and Ayam turned to him with playful scowls, and Ayam playfully tapped him on the head, insisting he call her by her name without the honorifics. Naruto rubbed his head and bowed deeply, apologizing for his formality. Tuchi placed a large bowl of ramen in front of him, complete with a sparkling candle shaped like a 7. Ayam wished him a happy birthday and kissed his forehead, causing him to blush. Overwhelmed with gratitude, he reached for his wallet, but both Tuchi and Ayam gave him a look that clearly said not to. Embarrassed, he put his wallet back. After finishing his meal, Naruto thanked them and began to eat while chatting happily. Once he was done, he discreetly left the payment for the ramen and dashed out of the stand, ignoring Ayam's calls. As he stepped onto a main road, he was met with the familiar, hostile glares from various villagers. Though he could endure physical attacks, the looks he received pierced his heart with fear and hurt. Soon, insults followed, and a rock was thrown by a Chunin. Dodging the projectile with a swift movement, Naruto ran as fast as he could. He navigated through his neighborhood, eventually reaching an intersection leading out of the village. Seeing hostile shinobi surrounding him, he didn't hesitate to sprint through the gates and into the vast forest beyond. As he scrambled through the underbrush, he heard a voice calling after him, demanding he return. The civilians soon gave up the chase, confident that the shinobi would handle the situation. Naruto found himself cornered in a cave by a group of shinobi. They taunted him, getting close and landing painful strikes in a cruel game of tag. Once inside the cave, a particularly vengeful shinobi attacked him relentlessly, leaving him on the brink of unconsciousness. After the group finished their assault, they departed, leaving only one final shinobi behind. This man, seemingly in his 30s, unsheathed a katana from its pure white sheath. The fire in the cave made the blade gleam ominously. With a swift motion, the man plunged the blade into Naruto's shoulder, pinning him to the ground. Naruto screamed in agony, the sound echoing around him. The blade struck the rock beneath him, causing the handguard to rattle and produce a hauntingly beautiful sound, like a small bell. The man released the handle and tossed the sheath onto Naruto's stomach. Looking up into the man's satisfied eyes, Naruto felt only pain. The shinobi taunted him, saying that if he survived, he could keep the sword, but he should die there for the sake of his family's honor. With that, the shinobi turned and walked toward the cave entrance, extinguishing the fire with a wind jutsu before vanishing into the night. Naruto blacked out shortly after the man left, only to awaken later to the sword being tugged weakly from his shoulder. At exactly 8:03 p.m., he turned his head and saw two pairs of sea-blue eyes that mirrored his own. They belonged to two wolf pups, one with a shimmering silver coat and the other with an ash-gray coat, both holding the sword in their jaws. Upon making eye contact, Naruto felt a surge of power rush through him. grabbing the handle of the sword, he pulled it out of his shoulder with a guttural scream. The wound quickly closed, leaving behind an angry red scar. Naruto turned back to the two wolf pups, their blue eyes reflecting a mix of emotions they could barely understand. He felt an overwhelming urge to touch them, and the pups, too, seemed drawn to him. They approached, and as Naruto raised his hands, a gentle connection sparked between them, causing all three to perk up slightly, their minds tingling in an inexplicable way. A young voice echoed in Naruto's mind, questioning who was there. The silver pup seemed to resonate with a similar inquiry. Naruto realized that he could identify which pup was speaking, and he thought to them, urging them to focus on him. As they did, he confirmed his suspicion that they were all connected in this strange way. Naruto expressed his surprise at their ability to communicate mentally. The silver pup, now sitting before him, articulated her thoughts clearly, which amazed him. He explained that their minds seemed to have merged in some way when they touched. The larger gray pup climbed into Naruto's lap, stretching and yawning, clearly content with the contact. He requested to be woken when the situation became clearer, and soon fell asleep to Naruto's rhythmic petting. As darkness began to settle, the silver pup urged Naruto to move, revealing that she had devised a way to navigate past the villagers. Naruto was taken aback by how she knew his name and about the villagers' secrets. She suggested that he think of himself in her mind to understand her experiences. Tentatively, he followed her advice and was overwhelmed by a flood of colors, sounds, and sensations that he had never encountered before. Tears welled in his eyes as he empathized with the loss of her parents, and the silver pup nodded sadly in acknowledgement. Naruto then pointed to the gray pup, asking if her name was Hoshiko. She confirmed it and hopped onto his shoulder, her demeanor reflecting the weight of her past. After retrieving a katana left by a jounin, Naruto gently woke Hoshiko and placed him on his other shoulder. He instructed them to hold on tightly as he began to run, feeling rejuvenated as his wounds had healed. Macy guided Hoshiko on how to access each other's memories, and upon viewing Naruto's past, Hoshiko reacted with a snarl at the sight of the village. Macy directed Naruto to head through the west gate, and despite the briefness of their acquaintance, he felt an unusual trust in the two pups. They were connected in a way that felt profound, and he knew they would not lead him astray. Their first task was to acquire new clothes. Naruto reluctantly took a sleeveless black shirt, dark blue pants, and bandages from a closed store, all while the celebrations continued in the village. Once home, he dressed in his new attire, wrapping bandages around his arms and ankles as he had seen shinobi do, even if he didn't fully understand the purpose. He draped the katana across his shoulders, its blade nearly scraping the ground as he walked. As he prepared to leave, Naruto suggested they inform the Hokage about the pups. Hoshiko agreed, leaping onto Naruto's head, while he carefully picked up Macy and ran toward the Hokage tower. Arriving in mere minutes, he knocked on the door, and a soft voice invited him in. Inside, the Hokage's expression shifted to one of shock as he took in Naruto's appearance, noting the dirt around his now-healed wounds, though he initially overlooked the two wolves. Naruto introduced Hoshiko and Macy, bowing as they did the same. Sarutobi had anticipated this moment and had chosen to remain hands-off until now, but he feigned ignorance for the time being. Naruto recounted his entire day to the Hokage, who discreetly set aside paperwork as he listened. By the end of the story, the Hokage recognized the need for action, despite the potential uproar it might cause. With a smirk, Naruto requested to be trained as a shinobi before his 10th birthday. The Hokage, familiar with that particular smirk from Kushina Uzumaki, cleared his throat and nodded slightly. An Umbu appeared before them, her long purple hair and katana indicating her readiness for duty. Yugao received the Hokage's order with a nod, her mask removed to reveal a warm smile, grateful for a break from her demanding duties. She informed Naruto that he would sleep and that she would pick him up at 6:30 in the morning so they could get to know each other. Hoshiko whimpered at the late hour, and Naruto felt the same. It was already past 10 p.m. The chase had lasted far too long. Yugao gently patted Hoshiko on the head, apologizing for the late hour. Naruto smiled at his new sensei and bowed, expressing his gratitude. Yugao guided the blonde and his wolves out the door and escorted them home. As Naruto lay in bed, he contemplated the future ahead of him, smiling as Macy curled into a ball on his chest and Hoshiko rested his head on Naruto's neck. The three of them talked until hours slipped by, and Naruto eventually fell asleep with a contented grin, feeling an unusual sense of peace. Time passed, and Naruto was now 12 years old. He awoke suddenly to a sense of danger, wishing for a moment of peace. Just as he leaned up, a katana pierced through his pillow and into the bed, scraping against the floor. Reacting quickly, Naruto spun around and kicked out, but Yugao blocked the attack with her leg, though she was still pushed back against the wall. Hoshiko commented on the roughness of Naruto's response, while Macy, moving gracefully through the morning chaos, requested Naruto to shift into his human form. As Naruto ducked under Yugao's blade, both Hoshiko and Macy transformed in a puff of smoke. Macy emerged as a beautiful girl in a white kimono with a blue border, her long silver ponytail swaying as she moved. Hoshiko, now in human form, sported spiky ash-gray hair and a dark gray yukata with a red border, his gray eyes scanning for any threats. Hoshiko and Macy headed to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, moving with an unusual grace. Once the food was ready, Naruto sat down, panting slightly as he tried to calm his breathing. Yugao joined him, exuding the ease of a victor. Hoshiko, not looking up from his food, asked about the new arrival, prompting Yugao to playfully smack the back of his head. Naruto chuckled at the exchange, while Macy playfully cuffed him, both she and Yugao smiling fondly at the familiar scene. After breakfast, Naruto changed into an orange yukata with a white border, loosely worn to reveal a glimpse of his scarred yet muscular chest. Macy blushed in embarrassment and annoyance at the sight. Hoshiko whistled, teasing Naruto about his appearance. Naruto flashed a smile and thanked Macy for the meal, while Yugao asked if he was ready for his first day at the academy. Naruto tensed slightly but quickly relaxed, stating he was as ready as he could be. Once everyone finished eating, Naruto and Hoshiko cleaned up, while Macy and Hoshiko transformed back into wolves with a simple hand sign. The group navigated through the buildings to avoid the glares Naruto might receive. Upon arriving at the academy, Yugao donned her mask, hugged Naruto and the wolf twins, then vanished in a swirl of leaves to the Hokage Tower. The trio entered the building just as the bell rang. As Naruto opened the classroom door, he noticed the girls' eyes roaming over him while the boys sized him up. He fought the urge to fidget under their scrutiny. Hoshiko and Macy joined him, now at the height of Irika's waist, a size that would impress any Inuzuka ninken. As Naruto walked to the back of the class to sit alone, he caught the attention of Sasuke Uchiha, Neji Hyuga, Sasuke Uchiha, and Inuzuka Kiba. Seeing Naruto's discomfort with the attention, Hoshiko growled softly, causing the class to turn away in fear or curiosity. Naruto scratched Hoshiko behind the ear and placed his katana on the table. Irika asked Naruto to explain his tardiness on the first day. Naruto replied with a deep voice that resonated through the room, stating he offered no excuses and would strive to be on time in the future. Macy noticed a few classmates blush and others cringe at his unique tone. Irika, acknowledging Naruto's late arrival, instructed him to introduce himself. Naruto introduced himself and his companions, pointing to Macy, who lay on the desk, and Hoshiko, who stood watch. Irika nodded and continued explaining how the year would unfold. In his mind, Naruto reflected on how much his wolves had grown, and Macy reminded him that their growth was interconnected. As the class transitioned outside to measure their skills, Naruto grabbed his katana and secured it at his hip before following the others. Neji Hyuga went first, scoring 8 out of 10 for both shuriken and kunai. Sasuke and Sasuke matched his score, while Kiba scored 7. When it was Naruto's turn, he confidently threw the kunai and shuriken simultaneously, achieving a perfect score. Whispers of admiration spread among the civilians present, and Sasuke looked at Naruto in awe, recognizing the skill it took to achieve such a feat. Sasuke, Kiba, and Neji glared at each other until Hoshiko showed his fangs, causing them to turn away. Naruto received praise for his performance as they prepared to move on to taijutsu. A group of enthusiastic children rushed toward Naruto, eager to meet what seemed to be the best student. He flashed them a smile, and a simple wave of his hand was enough for them to clear a path, their faces flushed with excitement. Macy smiled at the minor genjutsu Naruto used to create the opening. The three boys lounged at the back of the group until Iruka called out to them. He asked Naruto to go first since he excelled with shuriken and kunai. Stepping into a pre-drawn circle, Iruka allowed Naruto to use his katana for the demonstration. They both took their stances, with Naruto drawing his katana and settling into a loose position. Iruka charged forward with the speed of a genin, and their blades clashed as he drew a kunai. With an overhead strike, Iruka aimed to attack, but Naruto raised his blade to counter. The clash pushed Naruto back slightly, and Iruka attempted to slash from Naruto's left to right shoulder. Naruto dodged under the swipe and jumped forward with surprising speed, landing a knee to Iruka's stomach that knocked the wind out of him. He then extended his leg to kick Iruka, sending him backward. Naruto sheathed his katana and pointed out that Iruka had stepped outside the small circle, causing Iruka to blush at his loss. After a brief cough, he acknowledged Naruto's victory. Naruto bowed and walked to a shaded tree while Macy remained to watch the matches, and Hoshiko and Naruto took a nap. Once again, Naruto was awakened by a sense of danger. Without opening his eyes, he blocked a fist and recognized the chakra. He asked Sasuke what he needed. Sasuke expressed his desire for a fight, confident that he would win. Hoshiko, speaking in Naruto's mind, offered to take on Sasuke instead. Naruto made a hand sign, and Hoshiko transformed into his human form, shocking the entire class. Hoshiko warned Sasuke that if he could defeat him, then he could fight Naruto. Naruto cautioned Hoshiko not to harm Sasuke and released his grip, returning to sleep. Sasuke threw a punch at Hoshiko, but the wolf stood firm, unfazed by the attack. Hoshiko then grabbed Sasuke by the collar and tossed him toward the academy, where he landed in the dirt. As Sasuke got up, he turned to Macy and threw a kunai. In a flash, Iruka intercepted the kunai, holding it in front of Sasuke. Iruka calmly reminded Sasuke that attacking a leaf shinobi's comrade with intent to harm was unacceptable. Sasuke laughed, dismissing Hoshiko as a wild animal that would turn on them. Macy gritted her teeth and called for Naruto to transform back into his human form. Naruto complied, and the boys watching blushed at Macy's beauty as she drew a white and blue rapier and approached Sasuke, pressing the tip against his chest. Captivated by her presence, Sasuke was rendered immobile as she confronted him. She scolded him for calling her a wild animal, expressing disappointment in Itachi's brother. Naruto laughed from the tree, his deep voice echoing and causing the girls to blush. Iruka attempted to intervene, but Macy's long ponytail split into 9 parts, swaying behind her with intensity. The atmosphere grew tense, reminiscent of Kushina's anger. Naruto began to hum a calming tune, and gradually, Macy relaxed and returned to her wolf form, resting her head on Naruto's chest as he continued to hum. The soothing melody lulled everyone into a tranquil state until the bell rang, breaking the spell. Sasuke was the first to recover, questioning whether Naruto's humming was a jutsu. Naruto explained that it was a way of channeling chakra into his voice, creating a tone that resonated with others. Hoshiko transformed back into his wolf form and playfully nipped at Naruto's ear, announcing his intention to go to Ichiraka Ramen for lunch. Ino quickly joined Naruto's side, followed by other girls eager to accompany him. Naruto declared that he would pay for the ramen, prompting Iruka and the rest of the class to join them. Iruka offered to cover half the cost, and they agreed. When they arrived, Ayame greeted them with enthusiasm, hugging Naruto tightly, much to Sasuke's annoyance. Naruto encouraged the girls to order first while he and Iruka brought up the rear of the line. Tuchi called for Hoshiko to help, and Hoshiko transformed into his human form, now wearing a chef's outfit. Iruka inquired about Hoshiko's training, and Naruto explained that he was aspiring to become a ramen master. After placing his order for miso ramen, Tuchi and Hoshiko prepared the meal for the entire class. As they enjoyed their lunch, Hoshiko pointed out Yugao and Hayate, who had just arrived. Yugao greeted them, but Hayate reminded Naruto to address him as Hayate-sensei. Naruto nodded and asked about their training plans, while Sasuke, Sasuke, and Niji listened intently. Hayate, Macy, Hoshiko, and Naruto faced off against Sasuke, Sasuke, and Niji in a light sparring match. Naruto groaned, feeling the weight of the challenge. He thought it was unfair to pit him against two Jounin and two soon-to-be Genin. Irika, observing the scene, agreed to lend Naruto for training, reminding Hayate to ensure he returned safely. Suddenly, Hayate and Yugao drew their swords, with Yugao moving hers toward Naruto while Hayate prepared to strike. In a swift motion, Naruto caught his bowl of ramen with his foot while throwing his chopsticks into his left hand. He then unsheathed his sword, deflecting Yugao's strike and bringing his blade to her throat while catching Hayate's sword with his chopsticks. Yugao's sword became lodged in the wooden counter, leaving the stall silent as the academy students watched in awe at Naruto's skill. Hoshiko, determined, grabbed a kitchen knife and threw it at Naruto, who vanished and reappeared outside the stall, enjoying his ramen. Unbeknownst to him, Macy leaped silently, catching the knife midair with her jaws before charging at him. Hoshiko performed hand signs and unleashed a fireball, but Naruto finished his ramen and tossed the bowl to Ayame, who caught it effortlessly. He then launched his sword into the air, creating 10 shadow clones that surrounded Hayate. With a commanding gesture, Naruto initiated a lightning attack, sending a crackling bolt toward Hayate, who transformed into a log upon impact, causing Naruto's clones to burst into smoke. Naruto dodged Hoshiko's fireball and engaged in a fierce clash with Macy. Yugao, having freed her sword, charged at him, but Naruto countered with his own lightning-infused blade, cutting through hers and striking her with the flat of his sword before rushing toward Hoshiko and Hayate. Hayate, observing Naruto's movements, noted an opening but chose to continue blocking. Macy, seeking assistance, kicked Naruto and used a low-power water jutsu. Irika, amused, suggested that the whole class join in, prompting Sasuke to start throwing shuriken at Naruto. In response, Naruto created a mud wall with a single hand sign, then summoned clones that encircled everyone. With a powerful shout, Naruto unleashed his lightning technique, causing half of his sparring partners to be knocked out. He clapped his hands, and a web of lightning formed above, creating an inescapable tent of energy. The bolts intertwined, resembling a spider web, while Niji protected a small group with his own technique. Those who survived the attack were left with twitching muscles and singed clothing. As the dust settled, Naruto returned to his sword, positioning it with the tip facing away from him. Hoshiko sensed something unusual and warned everyone to be cautious. Grasping the hilt with both hands, Naruto announced his technique, Sword of Peace, turning the blade to face his opponents. The sound of metal against metal resonated like a bell, casting a genjutsu that enveloped those who heard it in a moment of blissful happiness. Naruto's clones approached the entranced ninjas, placing their blades against their throats. As he released the genjutsu, astonishment, rage, and pride flickered across the faces of his peers. Macy, surprised, questioned why Naruto hadn't revealed his new technique earlier, while Sasuke protested, calling it unfair. Niji, however, defended Naruto, reminding Sasuke that such techniques were acceptable. Naruto explained that Itachi had advised them to keep unique jutsus for unexpected situations. Sasuke's anger flared at the mention of Itachi, but before he could respond, a blur appeared before him, revealing Itachi, who questioned his brother's words. Naruto calmly intervened, suggesting that Sasuke should not be punished for following the villagers' example. Itachi sighed, acknowledging Naruto's maturity as he collected the unconscious ninjas scattered across the training ground. The clones walked back to the class, some waking up along the way and getting out of his arms, while most of the girls wrapped their arms around his neck and blushed. Sasuke woke up but didn't try to escape Naruto's embrace as he made casual conversation and carried her blushing figure. Naruto created clones to assist the still-awake ninjas to their destinations. The real Naruto helped Niji get to class, and they talked and laughed together on the way. The clone assisting Sasuke kept getting popped, so Naruto allowed her to walk on her own. Kiba and Naruto's clone quickly became friends, joking about the Uchiha's unique hairstyle. Irika and the Naruto clone he was assigned to discuss the important topic of the best ramen flavor, which turned into a lively debate, followed by laughter over their spirited discussion. When the entire group finally reached the class, they were all in good spirits, except for one. Sasuke remained in a sour mood. Naruto sat down in his usual spot, with Neji and Kiba eagerly taking seats on either side of him, while Akamaru and Naruto's wolves got along well. The three boys bonded as the year progressed toward graduation, becoming familiar with each other's homes through almost daily training sessions. Kiba and Neji learned that the village did not treat Naruto kindly. As they walked through the village, Akamaru and the wolves were enjoying a visit to Kiba's clan dog spa. Suddenly, a tomato was thrown, hitting Naruto in the face. He anticipated it but allowed it to hit him. Soon, the villagers surrounded them, throwing more projectiles at the blonde. Neji used a defensive technique to protect Naruto, while Kiba infused some of his chakra into the defense, enhancing it with a claw-like appearance that sliced through the flying objects. The villagers stepped back, some fleeing in fear. Neji halted when he sensed Kiba stop channeling chakra and approach Naruto with a rag in hand. Naruto thanked him weakly as he cleaned his face of the tomato juice. The trio continued to the classroom from the Inazuka compound where they had spent the night. Upon arriving at the academy, they sat in their usual seats just as the bell rang. Iruka began by announcing that it was graduation day and expressed pride that none of them had failed a single assignment. He then proceeded to rank the students from first to last, calling out Naruto's name. Naruto walked forward as his two best friends wished him luck. Entering the medium-sized room, Iruka informed him that they already knew he could perform the required tasks and asked him to demonstrate a fire technique instead. Mizuki, having already marked Naruto as passed with a proud smile, requested any fire jutsu he knew. Naruto threw his sword to the side and executed a fire technique, creating a chain of flames that connected to his hand sign. He caught his sword before causing any damage to the academy. Iruka nodded and asked Naruto to bring Neji out to select a headband from the table. Naruto happily complied, waddling over to the headbands and choosing a white one that matched the border of his kimono. He entered the classroom, tossing the headband in the air as he walked to his seat, tying it on while listening to the praise from his classmates. Hinata stuttered a compliment, and Naruto bowed slightly in response, causing her to nearly faint. As Neji returned with a headband covering his birdcage seal, he smiled and patted Kiba's shoulder, playfully calling him a mutt. Kiba feigned shock and then retorted, claiming Neji was no better. The two exchanged playful banter before Neji dramatically fell into his seat, making Naruto laugh. Kiba returned looking downcast, prompting concern from Naruto and Neji as he announced that it was Sasuke's turn. Naruto comforted Kiba, assuring him he would pass next time. Kiba then pulled out his headband from his pocket and tied it around his forehead, eliciting mock anger from Naruto and Neji, who began tossing random items at him. When they ran out of things to throw, they picked up their chairs, ready to launch them, while Kiba laughed uncontrollably. Mizuki and Iruka entered just in time to see the scene unfold, with two very angry teens poised to throw chairs at Kiba while the rest of the class laughed, even the usually stoic Uchihas. Kiba wiped tears of laughter from his eyes as he sat down, and Neji calmed himself, assuring Iruka that they were just having fun. Iruka then announced that Sakura and Ino had not passed, and the teams would be announced the following day. Kiba bolted from the room, followed closely by Naruto and Neji, with Naruto drawing his katana and Neji activating his Byakugan. When Neji and Kiba walked into the classroom for what might be their last time, they wanted to make it a special day. However, upon entering and seeing Naruto covered in new cuts and bruises, with his wolves on high alert, they were not pleased. Kiba growled, ready to confront the village, but Hoshiko intervened, tugging at their sleeves to lead them to Naruto. Naruto smiled at his friends, who watched as his wounds began to heal before their eyes, disappearing within the hour. He greeted them casually, but Neji and Kiba glared, with Neji asking why Naruto didn't fight back. Naruto tensed and replied timidly that he wasn't allowed to say unless the Hokage permitted him. Kiba growled again but eventually sat down, petting Macy and Akamaru as the other students arrived. Iruka announced that he would now assign the teams. Naruto tuned out until he heard Neji and Kiba cheering. Kiba exclaimed that they were on the same team, while Sasuke complained that every team had a kunoichi except theirs. A menacing growl filled the air as Macy jumped onto Sasuke's desk. Sasuke swallowed nervously and bowed slightly, offering his apologies to Macy as she walked away. The rest of the class suddenly remembered that Macy was a girl when she leaped into Niji's lap. Niji sighed and gently petted her to calm her down. Irika continued calling out names until he reached Team 11, announcing Sasuke, Hinata, and Tenten. Both kunoichi groaned at the realization of their shared teammate. Irika instructed them to wait for their sensei to arrive before leaving the room. Meanwhile, Naruto, Kiba, and Niji began speculating about what their sensei might be like. After 3 hours of discussion, they concluded that he was likely lazy or always late. Kakashi entered the classroom quietly, observing his students as they interacted with a wolf and engaged in friendly conversation. He asked if they were Team 7, and the 3 boys confirmed. Noticing the absence of a kunoichi, Kakashi heard a menacing snarl from one of the wolves, quickly deducing that the silver wolf was female and could understand him. He instructed them to meet him on the roof before disappearing in a puff of smoke. The boys and their companions opened the window and climbed up the side of the building to the roof, chatting along the way. The sky was a bright blue with a few clouds, and the sound of wind chimes drifted in the distance. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise as he saw not only the genin walking on the walls but also the wolves. Naruto was holding a small white dog, which he set down before hopping over the railing and sitting on a bench. The other 2 boys joined him, with Niji sitting furthest away. Kakashi initiated introductions, pointing to Niji first. Naruto and Kiba raised their hands, claiming that even Niji thought so. Niji, using his Byakugan, sent a warning glance at them. He introduced himself as Niji Hyuga, expressing his fondness for the Hyuga branch family, the Inuzuka clan, Konoha, and his 2 non-biological brothers, Naruto and Kiba, along with their companions, Akamaru and Hoshiko. He shared his dislikes, including the villagers and the main Hyuga family, and shuddered at the thought of his teammates' brilliant plans. Niji listed his hobbies as training, reading, and trying to teach his brothers some manners, and he revealed his dream of becoming Anbyu's next supreme commander under the Hokage. Naruto transformed Macy into her human form, and she introduced herself, speaking for both herself and Hoshiko. She expressed her love for her brothers, the Inuzuka clan, and deer, while sharing her dislikes for the villagers and arrogant people. Her hobbies included hunting, sleeping, and sunbathing, and she jokingly mentioned occasionally scaring off villagers who harmed Naruto. Her dream was for them to become the best ninja team in Konoha. She then pointed at Kakashi, urging him to introduce himself. Kakashi introduced himself as Kakashi Hatake, sharing his interests in Jiraiya's books, Konoha, learning new jutsu, and avoiding work. He mentioned his dislikes, including Shimura and loud people, and his hobbies of reading and a mysterious activity he would reveal later. He admitted he hadn't thought about a dream in a while and prompted Kiba to go next. Kiba introduced himself as Kiba Inuzuka, sharing his fondness for his friends, Akamaru, Hoshiko, and Macy, along with his clan and the Hyuga branch family. He expressed his disdain for the villagers and the main Hyuga family, as well as his annoyance when Naruto kept secrets. His hobbies included training, pranking, and walking with his companions, and his dream was to be the Hokage's personal guard and advisor. Naruto sighed, petting Hoshiko, and Kakashi playfully called him Goldilocks, provoking Naruto's frustration. As Naruto lunged at Kakashi, Kiba held him back, advising him to calm down. Niji plugged his ears as Kiba began to hum, channeling chakra into his vocal cords. Kakashi felt drowsy from the sound, while Naruto eventually settled down on the bench. When it was Naruto's turn, he introduced himself as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Niji, Kiba, and Kakashi were taken aback, exclaiming in disbelief. Realizing he had revealed too much, Naruto quickly covered his mouth. Niji, almost bowing, asked if he was the son of the 4th Hokage. Naruto insisted he should not bow, reminding Niji of their friendship. He then continued, revealing that he was the Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed fox. Kiba and Niji were shocked, understanding why Naruto faced hatred in the village, which only fueled their disdain for the villagers. Taking a deep breath, Naruto shared his likes, including his brothers and sisters, the Hyuga branch family, the Inuzuka clan, and his teachers, while expressing his hatred for those who mistreat others. The group winced at his words. He described his hobbies as training, meditating, and creating new jutsu, and declared his dream of becoming Hokage to help the world achieve peace. Kakashi felt a sense of pride for his team, especially with Naruto's unique background. He informed them that they would take the real Genin test the next day at Training Ground 7 at 6 a.m., advising them not to eat beforehand to avoid getting sick. With that, he vanished in a puff of smoke. As Naruto attempted to leave the roof, Neji and Kiba blocked his path. They insisted he should reveal his heritage to the village so they could respect him. Neji crossed his arms, declaring it a simple problem with a simple solution. Kiba pushed Naruto toward the Hokage tower, determined to help him confront the villagers. Upon entering the Hokage's office, they heard murmurs, followed by a loud exclamation from the Hokage, "You told them!" Naruto winced, feeling apprehensive about the situation. He expressed his concern to the Hokage, unsure of how things would unfold. Kiba and Neji noticed Naruto's discomfort and growled softly, trying to release some of their frustration towards the villagers. Sarutobi reassured Naruto, asking if he wanted to share his story with the village. Naruto sighed, doubting that anyone would believe him. He feared that revealing the truth would only lead to more pain for everyone involved. Neji and Kiba appreciated seeing Naruto's serious side, a rare glimpse of his deeper thoughts. Sarutobi, surprised by Naruto's insight, acknowledged the weight of his concerns. He promised to protect Naruto from any unwanted programs, which left Naruto confused about what that meant for his future. After some contemplation, Naruto decided to share his truth. Kiba and Neji celebrated quietly, bowing to the Hokage in excitement. Kiba declared their mission a step towards victory as they headed towards the stairs leading to the top of the tower. On their way, Sarutobi instructed an ANBU to gather the villagers and shinobi who were available. The ANBU quickly complied. When Naruto and the small group reached the top, they were met with a crowd eagerly awaiting the Hokage's announcement. Sarutobi approached the railing, and the crowd fell silent, anticipation hanging in the air. He began by apologizing for the short notice and revealed that the late fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had a son who had been living among them. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and cheers erupted as they processed the news. A man in the front shouted out, eager to know the child's identity. Sarutobi continued, explaining that the child had been living under his mother's clan name, Uzumaki, and was the spitting image of Minato. As realization dawned on the crowd, their expressions shifted to shock and disbelief. With a gesture, Sarutobi called Naruto forward, who stepped closer to the railing. The resemblance between him and Minato was unmistakable, and the crowd fell into a heavy silence as the implications of their past treatment of Naruto sank in. Naruto greeted everyone cheerfully, but the atmosphere was thick with sorrow as people expressed their regret for how they had treated him and his father. The weight of grief and guilt enveloped the village, and Kiba whispered to Neji about the anticlimactic nature of the moment. Sarutobi concluded his announcement, wishing everyone a good day, and then shared with Naruto his mischievous intent to stir things up with the civilian council. Just then, the door to his office swung open, and council members entered, greeting Naruto with unexpected familiarity. Feeling out of place, Naruto hesitated before responding. One council member, Homura, wore a calculating smile, contemplating how to manipulate the situation to his advantage. Sarutobi quickly intervened, reminding the council of the agreement he had made with Naruto regarding any unwanted programs. Naruto, sensing the tension, made a light-hearted remark about a specific program, prompting a shift in the room's atmosphere. He excused himself, expressing a need to train, and the council members nodded in approval as he left. As he exited the office, he accidentally bumped into someone, causing a brief moment of discomfort. He apologized and looked up to see a girl with striking black eyes. Sasuke blushed at their encounter, and Naruto noted her growing shyness. He playfully teased her about her flushed cheeks, drawing her gaze as he checked her forehead for any signs of illness. Sasuke's embarrassment deepened, and Naruto noticed the excitement from nearby, hinting at their friends' reactions. He bid her farewell, encouraging her to rest if she wasn't feeling well, before heading off to join his waiting team. Kiba wiggled his eyebrows playfully as he glanced between a blushing Sasuke and Naruto, teasingly suggesting that Naruto had a crush on Sasuke. In response, Naruto playfully punched Kiba in the face, sending him crashing into the wall, leaving a crater around his body. Kiba winced at the impact and asked if Naruto had to hit him so hard. Naruto laughed, pointing out that only Kiba could hit harder than him and teasingly offered to demonstrate the punches Kiba gave him during training. Without hesitation, Kiba hurried to catch up with his brothers. After leaving the tower, Kiba and Neji headed to their clan's private training grounds to practice secret jutsu. Meanwhile, Naruto made his way to a barn that had been burned down. He had been found inside the building, and the owner had preferred to destroy it rather than let Naruto stay. Standing in the charred field of wheat, Naruto contemplated how to make his new jutsu work. After a moment of thought, he stood up and began forming hand signs. The golden wheat, untouched by the fire, swayed gently in the wind as the sky turned golden with the setting sun. Naruto executed the hand signs: horse, tiger, hare, boar, dragon, tiger, ram, and dog. Upon completing the final sign, he punched the ground with a closed fist. Thick walls of packed earth rose up, creating a long hall that surrounded him. As he examined the jutsu, he noticed that the walls and floor absorbed chakra from anyone inside the hall. Hearing the sound of shifting dirt, he turned to see sharp spikes slowly emerging from the ends of the hall. Curious, Naruto experimented with different hand signs to see how they affected the jutsu. When he formed the horse sign, he felt a surge of control over the hardened earth. Channeling a bit of chakra, he envisioned a spike rising from the floor, barely scraping the ceiling. The spike shot up with surprising speed, catching even Naruto off guard. A smirk spread across his face as he drew his sword, charging it with chakra before swinging it at the wall to his left. The chakra was absorbed by the jutsu and returned to him, causing the sword to bounce back after making contact with the wall. Excited by the power of this jutsu, Naruto practiced with his sword, adjusting to the limited space around him. He had to reset the spikes growing from the ends of the hall several times as he trained. He continued until the sun had set and his chakra was nearly depleted, causing the hall to begin to crumble. Once the jutsu collapsed, Naruto stepped out and spotted a poorly concealed Anbu with pink hair and a red dress. Recognizing Sakura, he remarked that wearing a mask didn't make her good at stealth. Sakura removed her mask and approached him, teasingly asking if he liked Sasuke. Naruto pointed to the tree line, where a black-haired girl was hiding behind a tree, and sighed. He offered to walk the two of them home, gathering his belongings and motioning for Sasuke to join them. As they walked into the village, Naruto filled the air with cheesy jokes, which Sakura found amusing while Sasuke simply smiled and shook her head at him. After dropping off Sasuke and then Sakura at their respective homes, Naruto returned to his own house, where he was greeted by a worried Macy. Macy expressed her concern, questioning where he had been and why he hadn't informed them of his whereabouts. Naruto winced at her protective nature. He began to change out of his kimono, revealing his orange and white pants, causing Macy to blush slightly. Though she didn't harbor any romantic feelings for him, she couldn't help but notice how good-looking he was. Turning away, she covered her face. Naruto patted her head before heading into his room, where he stubbed his toe on the door but continued on as if nothing had happened. Hoshiko, holding a glass of water, asked how Naruto could endure such pain without screaming. Naruto replied nonchalantly that after being burned alive, not much else hurt. Macy playfully shoved him onto his bed, telling him to sleep before transforming into her wolf form and curling up on his chest. When Naruto woke up, he carefully moved the wolves off him and prepared a quick meal for his family. After cooking, he tossed a piece of crispy bacon into his room, and two wolves quickly tore it apart, devouring it. Once the meal was finished, the group headed to Training Ground 7, arriving 2 hours late. Kakashi, who had been waiting, was annoyed to see all three of his students walking and chatting. He liked his team and had made an effort to be punctual. Noticing their tardiness, he reminded them that they were late. The group mumbled a playful retort, and Kakashi sighed, pulling out 2 bells. He informed them that whoever didn't obtain a bell by noon would have to return to the academy. To Kakashi's surprise, all 3 boys remained neutral, as they had already decided to work together as a team. With the command to start, Naruto immediately launched a kick aimed at Kakashi's temple while throwing a kunai behind him to prevent any backward movement. Neji mirrored Naruto's movements perfectly, and Kiba charged at Kakashi with a kunai in hand, positioning himself between Naruto and Neji. Kakashi quickly shook off his surprise and began to assess his options. If Kakashi jumped, he would still be hit by Naruto and Neji's kick. If he moved forward, Kiba would strike him even quicker. If he went down, Kiba would still be there, and if he went backward he would face Neji and Naruto's kunai. His only option was to use a substitution. Kakashi executed the technique, and the log was crushed by the mirrored kick as if it were made of paper. He cringed at the thought of what could have happened to him and quickly hid in the trees. Kiba put away his kunai and slid under the crushed log, taking an offensive stance, while Naruto and Neji positioned themselves defensively on either side of him. Kakashi smiled, knowing that his team had already passed the test. Naruto tapped his ears and assumed the Haiwan no Ken stance. Neji and Kiba covered their ears. Kakashi braced himself, knowing that Naruto's next move would be intense. Naruto warned that it would hurt, invoking the technique known as Itami no Ken. Kakashi experienced a wave of pain like nothing he had ever felt before, a sensation that would make even demons shudder. As Naruto's tear-filled eyes reflected the intensity of the moment, Neji and Kiba were taken aback by the sheer agony in his expression. Suddenly, the scream ceased, but the downside of the jutsu was that Naruto would have to endure it a second time. Kakashi emerged from the forest, breathing heavily and on the verge of exhaustion, and asked Naruto how old he had been when he first experienced such pain. Naruto looked down at the dirt and admitted he was 7, revealing that the worst moment had come when he was 9. Kakashi, now back in his original form, cringed at the memory as he retrieved it from his shadow clone. He then suggested they continue, rushing toward Kiba at the center of their formation. The group agreed, preparing for the next phase of their training. As Kakashi charged at the 3 boys, he momentarily forgot to hold back. Their first combined attack demonstrated that they were just below Chunin rank. In his haste, Kakashi failed to notice Hoshiko on his left. Hoshiko, in human form, rocketed toward Kakashi with speeds rivaling those of a jounin. Kakashi raised his forearms to block Hoshiko's punch, sliding back on the thick grass. Neji appeared behind him, ready to strike with the gentle fist technique. Hoshiko unleashed his clawed gauntlets, launching an assault on Kakashi. Naruto and Kiba circled, waiting for the perfect opportunity to seize the bells. After a year of training together, Neji and Hoshiko had developed a seamless partnership. Hoshiko's aggressive style complemented Neji's graceful strikes, creating a formidable challenge for Kakashi. As Hoshiko slashed at Kakashi's midsection, Neji attacked from behind, targeting Kakashi's leg and shoulder. Kakashi leaned forward, placing his hands on Hoshiko's back, lifting his legs to kick Neji in the chest. The force sent Hoshiko's head into the ground, knocking him out, while Neji was propelled away from the impact. Kiba charged forward to grab the bells, but Kakashi quickly acted a mud wall between them. Kiba leaped and spun his body, calling out his technique, Gutsuga, as he tore through the wall with his claws. Kakashi formed hand signs on the other side. As he prepared to unleash a fireball, Kiba charged through the flames, emerging burned and exhausted, barely conscious. Naruto, positioned behind Kakashi with his blade drawn, prepared to strike. Kakashi barely managed to dodge to the left, but Naruto's blade grazed his right arm, leaving a shallow gash. Naruto halted, his sandals squeaking on the damp grass, and sheathed his sword. He then performed hand signs Kakashi had never seen before. With a powerful punch to the ground, he invoked the Earth Release, Duelist Hall. Kakashi had no time to escape the now iron-hard walls and ceiling. In the darkness, he lifted his headband to reveal his Sharingan, the eye glowing ominously. However, the most unsettling sight was the 2 glowing blue eyes at the opposite end of the hall. Naruto, aware of the Sharingan from his encounters with Itachi, charged at Kakashi with a speed that only a Sharingan could track. As kunai and katana clashed in the dim light, Naruto's eyes began to mutate, granting him a clearer vision of Kakashi's movements. Anticipating Kakashi's kick, Naruto ducked and grabbed Kakashi's ankle, pushing upward. Kakashi's balance faltered, and he began to follow the shift. Attempting a backward cartwheel, he aimed a kick with his free leg, but Naruto pivoted to avoid it and raised his arm to stab Kakashi's leg. Kakashi reacted with speed that caught Naruto off guard, spinning on his hand to face downward. As Kakashi's free leg descended toward Naruto's head, the blonde jumped away just in time. Kakashi righted himself, but as he looked up, he felt something tap the metal of his headband. He then noticed sharp spikes growing from the wall he faced. Exhausted, Kakashi leaned against the wall for support, only to realize that his chakra was being drained by the very surface he was touching. Standing on his toes to minimize the area from which his chakra was being siphoned, Kakashi noticed Naruto observing him. Naruto commented on Kakashi's realization of the jutsu's danger, forming a horse sign and envisioning dull pillars crashing into Kakashi. The silver-haired Jounin could barely see the dirt rising toward him. Although he noticed it, his body wasn't quick enough to evade the attack. Kakashi was struck by the pillars, sending him crashing into the ceiling before he fell back to the floor. Naruto approached Kakashi slowly, his brightly glowing blue eyes radiating a powerful aura as he dragged the tip of his sword against the wall. The unsettling sound of Naruto's blade scraping against the surface spurred Kakashi into action. Drawing on the last of his chakra, Kakashi rose and began forming hand signs. The sound of chirping birds filled the hall as he pointed his arm to the right, unleashing a tremendous force against the dirt wall. The wall exploded outward, allowing Kakashi to rush through just before it closed, with Naruto following closely behind. As Naruto stepped into the sunlight, his eyes throbbed painfully, waves of discomfort washing over him like never before. He fell to his knees, dropped his sword, and covered his eyes with his hands. His screams echoed through the quiet village, a sound that resonated with the villagers who recognized it all too well. The knowledge of Naruto's heritage weighed heavily on them, filling them with guilt. Soon after, Kiba, Neji, Macy, Hoshiko, Akamaru, and Kakashi gathered around him as he exited the crumbling hall. Those who could see looked to Kakashi for guidance. Kakashi spoke calmly, despite his worry for his screaming student, urging Naruto to open his eyes. However, Naruto was too consumed by his own cries to hear him. Kakashi instructed his students to hold Naruto down. Hoshiko secured Naruto's left arm, Kiba held his right, Neji restrained his left leg, and Macy took hold of his right. Naruto thrashed wildly, trying to break free and claw at his own eyes. Kakashi moved closer, activating his Sharingan, and forced open Naruto's eyelids, revealing his eyes glowing an intense blue. Kakashi quickly placed Naruto under a powerful yet calming genjutsu. The struggling boy went limp, closing his eyes once more. Exhausted, the group fell back from the blonde. Macy, panting and adjusting her kimono, asked Kakashi what had just happened. Kakashi explained that he had witnessed Naruto's jutsu manifest and new dojutsu. The students were taken aback, all stumbling over their words, but the common reaction was a collective, "What?" Kakashi raised his hands in a calming gesture, suggesting they take Naruto to a hospital. Everyone nodded hesitantly. Kakashi lifted the now whimpering blonde and sprinted toward the hospital as fast as he could. Upon entering, the medical staff seemed prepared for their arrival. The doctors rolled out a gurney and carefully transferred Naruto from Kakashi's arms. One of the nurses assured them that young Namikaze would receive proper care and began asking questions to ensure he was treated correctly. After 4 hours, a doctor emerged from Naruto's room with a cheerful grin. He announced that Naruto's mind and body were fine, and they had bandaged his eyes. As expected, they discovered that Naruto's eyes now exhibited a unique chakra pattern, in addition to Sharingan and Byakugan chakra patterns. The doctor advised that Naruto should keep the bandages on for 3 days to ensure proper healing. Kakashi nodded in understanding and asked if they could see Naruto. The doctor agreed and left to attend to other patients. Kiba rushed to Naruto's room and opened the door. Naruto was dressed in a white shirt and black shorts, sitting cross-legged with his left hand resting on his right, palms facing up. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating his golden hair, which swayed gently in the breeze. The few pure white clouds barely moved across the bright blue sky. Although Naruto couldn't see through the bandages, he instinctively turned toward the window, feeling the warmth of the sun fill the room. Kiba approached, asking if Naruto was all right. Naruto replied that while he might be shorter, they were about the same age. Kiba insisted that he had always wanted a little brother, and Naruto was the closest thing he had, so he should get used to it. Kiba took a seat beside Naruto, leaning forward with his forearms resting on his knees. The rest of the group entered the room, and Macy transformed into her wolf form, gracefully jumping onto Naruto's hospital bed. She circled him protectively before settling down beside him. Neji, grabbing chairs for everyone, asked Naruto to explain what had happened. Naruto admitted that his guess was as good as theirs and requested Neji to use his Byakugan to examine his eyes. He turned to face the group, absent-mindedly petting what he thought was Macy's neck, but was actually the bed. Macy shifted to allow him to pet her. Neji activated his Byakugan, peering past the bandages to observe the chakra pattern. He explained that normal eyes have static chakra, Sharingan have a clockwise spinning chakra, and Byakugan have a straight line from the pupil to the back of the eye. However, Naruto's eyes appeared to be bursting with chakra, reforming and exploding again at varying rates. Neji concluded that it would likely stabilize in 3 days, just as the doctor had said. Naruto sighed, acknowledging that at least he had gained a new dojutsu. Kakashi nodded, showing a slight understanding of Naruto's situation. He then asked what Naruto intended to name it. Naruto pondered, stating that it needed to be something cool, but he would wait to see its true form and abilities before deciding. He then requested to be released from the hospital before they found a needle. Kiba, Hoshiko, Macy, and Neji grimaced at the thought, while Akamaru whimpered and crawled deeper into Kiba's hoodie. Kakashi stood up to leave, questioning whether it was really that bad. The response came that dealing with Naruto and needles was not advisable. As Kakashi exited, he paused, informing the others that they had passed. With a puff of smoke, he was gone. Naruto raised his arms in a gesture asking for help, and Kiba and Neji assisted him off the bed. As Naruto began to walk toward the door, Neji attempted to speak but was interrupted by a thud. Naruto simply muttered an ow, before starting to punch and kick the wall he had collided with, expressing his frustration at the inanimate object. As he walked out, he bumped into something else, prompting a familiar voice to comment on his habit of running into things. Naruto defended himself, claiming it was not his fault he couldn't see Sasuke. Sasuke then noticed the bandages wrapped around Naruto's eyes and inquired about what had happened. Naruto explained that his body had decided to create a new dojutsu. He gently took Sasuke's wrist and lowered her hand from his face, trying to reassure her. Itachi, Sasuke's older brother, arrived and noticed Naruto holding his sister's wrist. Misinterpreting the situation, he marched over and grabbed Naruto by the collar, pulling him into a nearby room. Itachi laid down some ground rules, warning Naruto that if he broke Sasuke's heart or forced himself on her, he would face severe consequences. Naruto quickly assured Itachi that he had no intentions of dating anyone and that Sasuke was only touching his face. Itachi apologized for the misunderstanding and Naruto, still a bit shaken, hurried out of the room only to run into another wall, which knocked him out momentarily. Itachi chuckled and picked up the unconscious blonde, exiting the room. Sasuke approached her brother, asking what had happened to Naruto. Itachi explained that Naruto had simply run into a wall. Sasuke nodded and motioned for Itachi to follow her. The three of them made their way through the hospital and into the Hokage Tower's council room. Neji and Kiba attempted to follow but were stopped at the doors. As they walked, Naruto regained consciousness and changed into his usual kimono when they passed a men's bathroom. Once he was done, he lightly grasped Sasuke's arm to guide him, despite Itachi's earlier warning. Upon reaching the council room, Naruto felt around and discovered a hidden box in the podium that had once belonged to Minato and Kushina. Politely, he asked Sum, Kiba's mother, what it was. She hurried over, concerned about Naruto's condition, and took the box from him to examine it. Naruto teased that she would find out soon enough, which made some smile. However, her expression shifted to surprise as she recognized the blood seal on the box, which identified it as property of Naruto Namikaze. She informed Naruto that it was a gift from his parents. Excitedly, Naruto opened his kimono to reveal various seals inside. He activated one, summoning a kunai to his hand, and made a small cut on his left index finger. As he wiped his blood on the box, he was suddenly pulled into his mindscape. Inside, he found 5 figures: the Kyuubi sleeping peacefully, a blonde man embracing a redhead from behind, the redhead smiling at Naruto, and 2 others, Macy and Hoshiko, who were asleep. Naruto appeared with his bandages glowing a bright blue. The blonde man greeted him, prompting Naruto to tear at his bandages and rush toward his parents, tears filling his eyes. As he embraced them, his eyes stopped glowing, and their appearance changed, reflecting a more predatory look with slitted pupils. Minato and Kushina knelt to embrace their son, who cried into their clothes. Minato, feeling a bit sad, jokingly questioned why Naruto had called Kushina first. Naruto quickly reassured them, and Minato nodded, pulling his family closer. They shared a heartfelt moment until Minato pulled back, noticing the scars on Naruto's body, which caused concern for both parents. Kushina growled, questioning why Sarutobi had allowed Naruto to take on missions so early. Naruto clarified that the scars were not from missions, shocking his parents. Minato led them to a dry room, and Naruto motioned for them to lean down. He placed his hands on their foreheads, channeling chakra into them. As he did, their expressions shifted to one of pure rage. Minato, filled with anger, instructed Naruto to return to the real world and let him take over. Naruto hesitated, worried about leaving them behind. Kushina calmed him, explaining that opening the box had transferred chakra from everyone in the room to them, allowing them to remain for a month outside of his mind and 2 months within it. She reassured him that they would be there for him, ready to support him in whatever challenges lay ahead. "Don't swear in front of him, Kushina," Minato scolded, then looked at Naruto, tilting his head in confusion. Naruto mirrored the gesture, and Kushina squealed at how adorable her boys looked when they were puzzled. "Did you not receive all of my memories?" Both Kushina and Minato shook their heads. "Well, my body created a dojutsu." With that, Kushina playfully tossed Naruto into the air like a pebble and caught him again, shaking with excitement. Minato stood frozen in shock. "What does it do?" Kushina asked, hugging her son and spinning him around. Naruto giggled, then opened his eyelids as wide as he could. He slipped from his mother's embrace and focused on a wall. "Moving force," he declared. As he spoke, a burst of energy, seemingly infused with chakra, shot from his eyes. The force moved so swiftly that only those with a dojutsu could perceive it in time to evade it. The air struck the wall, shattering the concrete as if it were glass. Minato and Kushina beamed with pride, thinking about how strong their son had become. Naruto found himself enveloped in another embrace from his family. Minato smiled at him and ruffled his hair. Naruto returned the smile, feeling his parents' warmth and acceptance. When Naruto returned to the real world, he noticed the room was in chaos, with people running around frantically, lamenting, "We just found him, and now we lose him." To gain their attention, Naruto coughed softly. "Sorry about that, please sit down everyone." As he unraveled the bandages from his eyes, his gaze returned to normal. The room quieted, eager to ask questions. "I don't know why this meeting was held, but I need to announce 2 things. The first is that my body has created a new dojutsu." Gasps of disbelief rippled through the crowd, accompanied by shocked expressions. "That's impossible, Namikaze-sama. We've tried to achieve what you're claiming long before you were born." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the Hyuga who spoke. He pointed to his eyes, and once everyone was focused on him, he transformed them. His pupil dilated until his entire eye turned black, then a blue slit formed. The room gasped in awe. "I've only begun to explore some of its powers. I will need more time to understand its full potential." Rising from his podium, he continued, "My second announcement requires an explanation. I'm sure you've noticed that some of your chakra is missing. The room nodded in agreement. The chakra that was taken from you has been converted into 2 different types. The first belongs to my father. As he said this, he performed hand signs, and Minato appeared to his left. The council was ecstatic until they noticed his serious expression, which was unsettling. They hoped that Kushina was not the source of the second chakra, but their hopes were dashed. The second belongs to my mother. The room went pale, and Sarutobi attempted to slip out the door. Don't you dare, you old monkey, Kushina's fully formed body declared as she walked to the door and locked it, her hair splitting into 9 parts. So, anyone care to explain why my son was treated the way he was? Silence enveloped the room. Ka-san, I've already forgiven them. Please calm down. Naruto gave her his best pleading look. Overwhelmed by her son's cuteness, Kushina rushed to him and hugged him tightly. Minato chuckled and took a seat in his usual chair, motioning for Naruto and Kushina to join him. Kushina sat down, pulling Naruto into her lap. He squirmed, trying to escape, but she held him firmly. Sasuke watched the scene, blushing as he saw Naruto's attempts to wriggle free from his mother's grip. Welcome back from the dead, Dobe, Fugaku said, leaning back in his chair with a smile. What was that, team? Minato asked, opening the box in Naruto's hands to reveal a 3-pointed kunai. Enough, both of you, quiet down, Himoto snapped at her 2 former teammates. Fugaku and Minato exchanged worried glances, while Himoto thought to herself, still got it. Sarutobi cleared his throat to regain everyone's attention. Most of you know why we gathered today. All major clans are to present Naruto with a gift from their clan. Naruto deactivated his dojutsu and patted his mother's arm. Understanding the unspoken message, Kushina let him rise. The clan heads approached the blonde, offering their gifts. As Naruto received the gifts, he appreciated the effort each clan had put into their offerings. He noted that only the Uchiha, Hyuga, Inuzuka, Nara, and Aburame clans were worth forming alliances with, based solely on their gifts. The Uchiha presented him with a katana that became nearly invisible when the user channeled chakra into the blade. The Hyuga gifted Naruto a scroll of rare wind jutsus and another scroll to assist him with his new dojutsu. The Inuzuka clan provided a scroll of their jutsu and a promise of loyalty, which Naruto eagerly signed. The Nara clan handed him a battle strategy scroll detailing all of Konoha's major battles. The Aburame clan gifted him a wooden staff containing ants. Shibi warned Naruto, these ants possess the most painful natural poison of any creature in the world, so be cautious. Feed them a single leaf coated with your chakra each week, and they will obey your commands. Grateful, Naruto thanked each clan and bowed deeply. Minato and Kushina beamed with pride at their son's politeness. The remaining gifts were less impressive. The Haruno clan's offering of 10 ordinary kunai and a smile was particularly underwhelming. Once all the gifts were presented, the clan heads departed after speaking with Minato and Kushina about their limited lifespans. Fugaku, Mikoto, Minato, and Kushina engaged in conversation, with Mikoto and Kushina playfully nudging their children closer together. In an unexpected turn, Mikoto pushed too hard, causing Sasuke to tumble onto Naruto, who instinctively caught him. Their lips accidentally met, both boys blushing deeply, resembling Kushina's vibrant hair. Naruto thought, Itachi is going to kill me either way, I might as well enjoy this, and leaned in to kiss Sasuke with gentle insistence. Sasuke's blush deepened as he decided to respond, kissing back. Naruto paused as he sensed 3 intense chakra signatures radiating a dangerous energy. He turned to his left and saw his parents and Mikoto giving him encouraging smiles and thumbs up, while Fugaku, Itachi, and Sasuke, who had just entered the room, were twitching slightly. Taking the hint, Naruto stood up, grabbed Sasuke's hand, and used the body flicker technique to teleport to the burnt barn where he trained. He faintly heard someone shout for him to return, and Sasuke stifled a giggle, imagining how frustrated her brothers must be. Naruto then mentioned something about a kiss, pulling Sasuke's hand behind him, and their lips met once more. Sasuke immediately responded to the kiss, feeling a rush of warmth. She pulled back, blushing, and stammered that it was an accident. Naruto's smile widened as he teased her about her reaction. He placed his forehead against hers and asked if she would be his girlfriend. Sasuke nodded, lifting her gaze to meet his. As their dojutsu activated, the two exchanged a powerful glance. Naruto noticed the purple and white chakra swirling within Sasuke, while a bright red chakra suddenly appeared in front of him. Itachi stood protectively between Naruto and Sasuke, with Fugaku behind Naruto and Sasuke preparing to strike from above with a kunai. Naruto whispered a technique, ensuring he kept the power low to avoid serious harm to Sasuke. The Uchiha's eyes widened as Sasuke was unexpectedly flung upward, a small trickle of blood escaping her mouth. She landed on her feet, albeit unsteadily, trying to regain her breath. Naruto's dojutsu began to glow faintly blue as Itachi and Fugaku rushed toward him. He unsealed the sword Fugaku had given him earlier and charged it with chakra, rendering it invisible to the naked eye. Both Uchiha activated their Sharingan to see the chakra within the sword, but they were unprepared for the seal Naruto had placed on it, which concealed the chakra entirely. Itachi quickly formed hand signs and created a triangle with his fingers, channeling a powerful fire technique. Massive fireballs erupted from the tips of the triangle and raced toward Naruto, creating a wall of flames. Behind him, two others unleashed their own fire techniques, sending lashing whips of fire toward him. Naruto stood firm, sheathed his sword, and formed his own hand signs, unleashing a powerful wind technique that created a tornado of fire as it clashed with the Uchiha's jutsus. Blades of wind, now coated with flames, shot out toward the trio. Before they could react, the jutsu dispersed into gentle gusts of wind that brushed against their clothes. Inside the fading tornado, Naruto expressed his frustration, striking the ground repeatedly. The Uchiha realized that Naruto lacked the chakra control necessary for the technique he attempted, yet they admired his determination. They could see how hard he worked and how much he pushed himself during training. As Naruto punched the ground one last time, a crack echoed through the air. The Uchiha heard the sickening snap of Naruto's hand breaking, and they rushed to his side. To their surprise, Naruto remained unfazed by the injury. He had endured far worse pain. He stood up, muttering a goodbye, and walked away to continue training. Sasuke ran after him, with Sasuke following closely behind. Itachi and Fugaku were left staring at the small pool of blood Naruto had left behind, the last rays of sunlight illuminating the dark red liquid. Naruto made his way toward Training Ground 7, while Sasuke ran ahead to block his path. He pushed Sasuke aside and gently moved Sasuke away, insisting he needed to train without interruption. Sasuke felt deflated, watching the tornadoes forming and dissipating in the distance. She remained there, observing Naruto's attempts at the jutsu from afar. After 2 hours, the tornadoes abruptly ceased. Sasuke sensed several chakra signatures approaching Naruto and hurried to his side. When she arrived, she was met with uprooted trees and a battered Naruto, panting heavily in the center of the chaos. Minato, Kushina, Macy, Hoshiko, Neji, Kiba, Sasuke, and Kakashi all arrived simultaneously, staring in shock at the scene. Naruto raised his hand in a casual wave. Everyone rushed over the obstacles to reach him, and Macy and Kushina shouted in unison, questioning why he was training so hard. They exchanged confused glances before rushing forward, raising their arms and legs in a synchronized manner. They then positioned their palms together and began a tandem healing jutsu, which glowed a bright white, healing Naruto faster than any other technique. However, Naruto raised his hands to stop them from healing him. Naruto advised not to waste time, mentioning that the real one was out training somewhere to the east of Konoha. Suddenly, he grabbed a kunai and dramatically fell to the ground, leaving a puddle behind. Sasuke screamed in shock as the figure of Naruto dissolved into the ground. Kushina and Macy stood up, with Macy transforming into her wolf form. Minato smiled, acknowledging Macy as Naruto's destined partner. Hoshiko corrected him, stating that Naruto had 2 partners. Minato's eyes widened as Hoshiko also transformed into a wolf, and the 2 of them dashed off to find Naruto, followed closely by Kushina, Neji, Kiba, and Sasuke. Kakashi approached Minato and embraced him, prompting a chuckle from Minato as he remarked on Kakashi's growth. Kakashi allowed his emotional barriers to lower for a moment, shedding tears of happiness. Minato comforted him, expressing a desire to find Naruto before he could harm himself with a dangerous jutsu. Kakashi wiped his eyes and nodded in agreement, and the duo set off after taking a moment to glance at the puddle left behind. Meanwhile, the real Naruto was in a clearing, practicing his chakra control by unleashing and then calming his chakra. He sensed a presence to his left and turned to see blood-red eyes watching him from the dark forest. The predator-like gaze inspired him to name his new dojutsu the Hashikushigan. Just then, he felt multiple chakra signatures approaching and braced himself for the inevitable scolding from his sister, mother, and girlfriend. As he turned around, he was met with a powerful fist to his face, a foot to his chest, and another to his stomach, sending him crashing into a tree. Emerging from the wreckage, he pulled a piece of wood from his back and walked toward the girls. He noticed Neji, Kiba, Hoshiko, Kakashi, and his father hiding from the fierce Kunoichi. With a charming smile, he playfully undid the top of his kimono, causing Sasuke and Macy to blush, while Kushina remained unfazed and struck him again, sending him airborne. As he landed with a groan, Kushina expressed her frustration, lamenting that after 12 years, he would put her through such distress. Sasuke, equally upset, pointed out that they had only been together for a short time, while his sister scolded him for his reckless behavior. Naruto rubbed his ear, pretending not to hear their concerns, but before he could finish his sentence, all three girls punched him, simultaneously sending him crashing to the ground. Sasuke approached him, kissed him gently, and warned him not to repeat his reckless actions. Naruto nodded vigorously, and as Sasuke draped his kimono over her shoulders for warmth, he got back on his feet. Kushina and Macy playfully nudged him with mischievous grins. Minato emerged from his hiding spot and playfully tapped Naruto on the head. Rubbing his sore head, Naruto sulked, questioning what else he could have done. Neji, Hoshiko, and Kiba chimed in, suggesting he should have chosen any other option. Naruto, feeling down, caught up to Sasuke's pace and asked Minato if he could have a C-rank mission when they returned, holding Sasuke's hand, which made her blush. Minato gazed at the stars and side-hugged Kushina, agreeing to the mission if Naruto's team was ready. Kakashi confirmed they were prepared, having passed the bell test in record time. Minato paused, surprised to learn Kakashi was their sensei, and smiled brightly, agreeing to check on their mission options when they arrived. As Minato and Kushina faded into dust, returning to Naruto's mind, the group fell silent until they reached the gates.